Good morning, everyone. Do you run away or do you run towards? Well, you probably say, Father, you didn't finish the question. You got to finish the question, then I'll tell you if I run towards it or if I run away from it. Well, think about it. Think about the things that you run towards, and think about the things that you run away from. So perhaps maybe one of those things that you're thinking of will fall into the question really that we're asking. But before we go there, let us review, okay? And from here on out, I want you to complete that little phrase. And I want you to complete it with the word challenge. See, because ultimately, and you know that I'm going to review either the last week or last couple of weeks, and I do that for a reason. Primarily for myself and for you, so that we could challenge ourselves on whether or not we listened and followed the gospel of Jesus Christ. See, because otherwise, why are we here? So again, it's a continual process and growth in becoming more and more a faithful disciple of Jesus Christ. So we're all on the journey. We're all on the journey. We're all on that continuum. And so hopefully we are desiring to grow deeper and deeper in our relationship with Christ. So when I say let us review and you'll say challenge. Let us review and okay. Challenge ourselves. 3 weeks ago, we heard from, or a little bit further along than that, we heard from the obedience or the lack of obedience from that leper. The leper was healed. The leper was healed and told to do something very specific. The leper was healed and told to be quiet. Did he? He did not. He went and he did his, and it was really, after being healed, you would think that you'd want to go and tell people. For the mission, Jesus gave him something very specific. It was a good reflection for us that, first of all, to ask obedience to what? Obedience to our conscience, and that we all had a clarity of understanding of what conscience is. It's not a gooey feeling right here. Conscience is our last best. We have people that are listening. Wonderful. Last best judgment. That is to say, we can know the truth and we can choose it. Okay? Last best judgment. Have to follow our conscience. If we don't follow our conscience, that's when we sin. Well, wait a minute, Father. What if our conscience is wrong? Well, we're responsible for that too. All right? We're responsible for forming our conscience. And so we go and we try to best understand reason. We have the gift of faith that confirms that from reason, and so we move on. Okay? Obedience. We also looked at the zeal that attracts and also inspires. That zeal was Christ. He was so filled with zeal for the house of his Father that he made a whip, drove out the money changers. He came over and he upended the table. Zeal. That type of zeal we unfolded. Authentic zeal comes from knowing how deeply we are loved by God. And that too is on a continuum, and on a journey we have insights that God unfolds for us on how deeply we are loved. But how do we do that? Well, day in and day out. Well, the church unfolds a process: prayer, fasting, almsgiving. So again, the question goes out. We've got one more week of Lent, essentially. Did you commit to a prayer, an extra prayer? Did you commit to fast from something? Did you commit to do something extra? Again, as I said last week, I'd rather that all of us commit to something and fail miserably at it than refuse in apathy to choose something to commit to. So, again, are we a fan of Jesus Christ? Sounds good to me. Or are we a follower? So the challenge continues to go out. This is not a time of shame, all right? If you're feeling heavy, if what I'm saying is weighing you down, that is not the purpose. Remember, shame is from Satan. Guilt is a gift from God for greatness. Guilt is a light that enables us to see and say, wait a minute, I'm falling short, and it almost impels us forward to go down the path of greatness. Well, now we come to today. Do we run towards it or do we run away from it? Well, that's the will of God when there is suffering involved. See, in Jeremiah, he talks about the covenant. Remember, a contract is an exchange of services, okay? Where a covenant is a total gift of self, a total gift of self. And so Jeremiah is saying there will come a day when there will be a covenant where you know it in your heart. A very powerful words coming from Jeremiah, where a people were in exile. Last week, we talked about that exile and how we either were captive or king. When Jeremiah said, if you do not take care of those who are the least, those who cannot take care of themselves, then what will happen is that you will draw into yourself, you will become selfish, the nation will become weakened, and it will be taken over. That's exactly what happened. The temple was sacked, and the people were taken away into captivity. So, are you captive or are you king? Well, we saw that too. All of us are captive because all of us sin, and all of us are in need of the mercy of God. But we're all king as well. Cyrus, after 70 years of captivity, was placed as king, and he released the Israelites. And he released them so that they can do whatever they want. No, that wasn't the purpose. He released them so that they could go and rebuild the temple. And so, not only are we all captive, but we are also all king. That is to say, we have the power to go to confession and to rebuild the temple. I tell you, it's wonderful to see so many people in Mass today. A lot of people in Mass last night, too, and earlier this morning. Wonderful to see that. We have about 900 or so people come to Mass here, another 200, maybe 225 over at Sacred Heart. We had a penance service on Wednesday. We had about 100 people there. 100 out of 1,200. So the challenge goes out. How am I doing? Again, Jeremiah also is talking about this today, is talking about the covenant, a total gift of self. Running to that experience where even Christ says, well, I've come to this experience, this suffering. Should I say, Father, deliver me from this hour? No, for this hour I have been created. Father, glorify your name. And so, it's extremely important for us as we continue on our relationship with God that the fact is we're going to come to those moments where the invitation is there, that Christ gives us his invitation, and we know that we're going to have to suffer, and we're going to want to run in the opposite direction. What's that? That's your alarm. That's your alarm, and you want to hit it and snooze it, don't you? See? He does. All right? Yes. You want to snooze, get up. That's what it's saying. Get up, get up, get up, get up, get up. Live, 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 live. It's not always going to happen for us. We're not always going to hear that alarm. Today is today, and we have it. The challenges that we're going to experience today, the challenges that we are going to want to run from, that email that you see and you're like, oh, I don't want to answer that one. Or you get that call and you're like, oh, I'm so thankful for caller identification. I'm not taking that one. Boop, voicemail. Or all of those different things. Now, here's the key. All right? It's not suffering for suffering's sake. See, at the end of that gospel, I will draw all to myself through this particular. Jesus knew he would suffer, but he also knew that if he did this, secondary to his suffering, he would bring forth life to the world. So we all know those people that they're always suffering. It's so sad for me and so difficult and everything is. Now, even there, in that type of suffering, there's still some grace. But that is not the caricature that I'm talking about. I'm talking about us coming to a certain point in our life where we have a possession of ourselves. We also see a situation where we can choose it, and we know that we'll suffer. But we know that if we do that, it's going to bring forth life. And in that, we clearly choose it. We're not going to get anything back other than the fact that we know that what we do will bring forth life in another person, or many. And that's the invitation. Resist the temptation to see this through. Father, deliver me. See, Jesus even said he was troubled by the situation, and I take great comfort in that. When I'm looking at a suffering, I should say an invitation from the Lord. And I realize, well, the Lord said, Father, if it be your will, let this cup pass from me. But not my will, but your will be done. So the fact is, he said, he might have been troubled by it, and that's what the gospel says today. But he says, should I say, deliver me? It's for this purpose that I have been created. And so, what are you going to come to today? For this purpose, for that moment, you have that opportunity. I have that opportunity to say, yeah, I'm going to suffer a little bit. Last night I got called. I got home a little late. It was around 11:30 or so. Got things together. I laid down. It was 12:30. The phone rang. And the phone rang, and I didn't get to it the first time. But it rang a second time, and when that happens, I know that somebody is calling for the emergency number. And it was. It was kind of one of those things where you get up and you go. Do you run away, or do you run toward? The opportunity will come for you, if not today, tomorrow, this week. Run toward the will of God.